Good morning, Jax. How are you today?
I am fantastic, Wendy. How are you today?
Doing good, doing good. It was an early morning, got out before the weather changed. We're getting 15 to 25 centimeters of snow later.
Oh, gosh. It's the never-ending winter. But, truthfully, I mean, when I was running across Canada last year, it's felt like it snowed until, into April. So I
Yeah,
guess I still got a couple more weeks.
that's right. That's right. I mean, on the weekend I was tempted. Maybe I should rake, because it was so nice. Like we just keep, and then it's like, no, just there's more coming. Just wait.
What about your flip-flops or your
Oh,
shorts?
I've been in the flip-flops, not the shorts yet, but I've been in the flip-flops.
They've come out.
Oh yeah.
Awesome. Well, not over here quite yet, but yeah, we will be there soon. I can't wait to talk a little more today about our feels because this long winter, I'm sure it's getting to a lot of us, and that's kind of what my feel is going to be somewhat about.
Perfect. Well, that's a good segue into the intro of the episode, guys. Episode 9. Welcome everybody on this Tuesday. Welcome to Putting the Feel Back in Tuesday. We are a podcast that's dedicated to self-improvement and some inner growth and just talking about feelings and validating them, because it's important that no matter what our feelings are up and down, that we validate them and feel safe about them. And this is a safe space to provide that for you guys with some unique perspectives and ideas for just embracing who we are. So we are your hosts. I am Wendy.
And I am Jackson Sharon Okerlund.
I love it. So many different names, right? Which one should I go by today? I love it.
Every week, I don't know, I get put on the spot and I'm like, oh gosh, what name do I call myself today? Whatever one feels right that day.
Yeah, whichever hat you're into today. Love it. Love it.
So on episode 9, Wendy, a little notice for the listeners here. Wendy and
Yep.
I had a bit of a personal conversation last night talking about the podcast and how we can build some longevity to this podcast. Because when we started this show, we started it built around feelings and trying to learn more about them, talk about them, get deeper into that topic and how to find our gratitude, find our happiness, and everything that comes around it. But as we were talking yesterday, we were kind of thinking, um, eventually we're going to run out of feelings to talk about.
Mhm.
And it's with feelings, it's something that have existed from the dawn of time, and there's not too many new scientific studies coming out where you can kind of week after week continue to build on new discoveries and new ideas in the realm of feelings. So you might notice as the episodes go later on, we're going to try and find our voice in other directions and try to, I guess, organically branch this podcast out into more ideas, more topics. We're not even fully sure what those will be as of yet. We're definitely still into these feelings and our spirituality, as that's really what brought Wendy and I together with such our close bond. It's because it's so hard to find people that are that passionate and in love with um, just the whole idea of the inner emotions and just the
Yeah.
spirituality that comes around it. So yeah, this episode is going to be less even of a teaching episode and more so just a free-flowing conversation about our lives and ideas. And we're going to try and bring in those elements that I just talked about and try to attach those ideas to the things we're talking about. And hopefully, instead of just us teaching, we can all learn through just discussion and conversation.
Yes, absolutely. Because there's lots of different ways, right, that we encounter feelings and explore feelings and deal with feelings. And a lot of that is in our everyday Some of us can have a fantastic week and then a real crappy week or just one day in it that was not cool. So yeah, as we, I think, branch out naturally, you're going to bump into still talking about a little bit of some feelings or how spirituality came into that, or just maybe not at all that week, but we'll keep peppering it in there and see where it goes.
Absolutely. So if you're a listener now on episode 9, you've probably heard us talk. We've always had a couple ideas that we wanted to talk about, and we really just would dive into that idea. But now
Mm,
you might start hearing a little more personal information from Wendy and I just on our lives, our childhoods, our upbringing,
mm.
our adult lives, our relationships. And if you're a listener that made it to episode 9, you're pretty committed to the duo here. So maybe it's time for us to get a little more vulnerable and
Yeah,
see where these conversations go.
absolutely. And but if anybody does have like, oh hey, how about this? Like if something in an episode sparks, or if something in your world sparks an idea still, or a certain topic, maybe you're curious to hear us talk about, whichever. Still, keep putting that out there, whether it's, in the Facebook or commenting on the video. Yeah, I think we're just open to it all.
I know some people have fallen behind, which is understandable, but a lot of the very devoted listeners, you miss a week or two, and then you're at with the episodes we've released, the two back to back were close to 2 hours each.
Yeah,
So some people they started out, close to an hour, and then somehow, we just get into it, and then they end up being 2 hours and they feel like an hour. So some people
yeah,
have fallen behind, but for those of you that are all caught up, let's get into episode 9. So,
yeah.
Wendy, what has brought the feel to your Tuesday this week?
Oh, well, I mean, we've got a few things. I mean, I was mentioning before we started, this morning was fun. If anyone lives by a Save on Foods and this uploads before it closes, it's $1.49 day. So just appreciative of some cheaper groceries this morning, even if you're setting your alarm. There's a friend that I'll go with if we can coincide and go, or pick up for a neighbor or something when it comes to the cheaper groceries. So that was kind of exciting.
Is that once a
Getting
week
to,
or once a month?
yeah, it is starting to feel like once a month. They were like, we're gonna do this twice a year, and then
Okay.
they seem to be more back to back. And I'm like, okay, don't question it, just be thankful.
Yeah, like honestly, don't even buy your groceries till $1.49 day.
Yes, yeah. So, that was kind of fun. And like I said, we got out there. I think our intro brought us in about the weather. Yeah, that everlasting. It's okay, it's gonna snow. Like we're not getting into minus 20 or 30, but we're gonna get that 15 to 25 centimeters today, and just off we go again.
It's almost like we get acclimated though in those couple days of sunshine to when it does flip again, because we're on
Yeah,
like that flip-flop kind of time of year. Your body
no,
does feel like it's minus 20.
it does. I know we're getting there though. We're getting there. That I could feel like I said on the weekend, I was like, should I rake? Should I put the harness on packs and get out there? But there's more coming, right? But that feeling, so Mother Nature's starting to drop those little feelings for us of we're almost there. Obviously, we're being taught some patience. We're being pushed into some patience a little bit from Mother
Yeah,
Nature, but
to the
it's
max.
nice to feel those drops. Yeah.
Does has Pax been waiting to go out, or is that kind of
Oh
like
yeah.
your get it come out Pax?
Oh yeah. No, no, no. That is her thing. She's from like one of my jobs. That was the place that at first I was like, oh hey, you could park Marianne here, when there was that big like, what's going on? So it's an acreage on the edge of the city, and that's where she's from. And she stayed there a little longer than you would normally part a kitten with mom, just because we were going on a holiday for like 2.5 weeks, so she had to stay longer. So outside in her is really big. So as long as she's on the harness and the leash. She's totally fine with it. She loves it. She lets me put it on her. And she knows when it starts to get nice out that she also knows that it's spring. And then once it gets cold and we stop, she's okay. Like she gets it when you open the door and she gets that.
So do
We
you have
all,
a baby
oh God.
stroller for the cat?
What?
Do you have a baby stroller for the cat?
No,
No. I know
just, I don't, I,
Ailes said the only way she'll go walking with me is if we get a baby stroller so that we can push the cat in it.
yep. Both or
Um,
just one cat?
only one of the cats really wants to go outside. The other one
Oh,
is pretty lazy bone. She just likes to pick a different spot all throughout the day
got
and
it.
takes naps.
Scared. It would be very overwhelming.
Yeah, and the other cat's very curious. So yeah,
Well,
that's
and that
cool.
hunter kind of in them because she's I mean, so used to being like that's how she started, right? And her mom would teach her to hunt out there. There were mice and birds, and um, because I'd get to see her whenever I'd go there, she sort of got to know us. And back then, I'd take Spencer too because he was younger, and you'd finish work and come down the stairs, and there'd be a bird. I brought you a bird.
Oh
Thank you.
gosh. That just brought me back. I used to have a cat called Angel, and every single day, there was a new critter on the back deck. They were such a good hunter, but yeah, that just
Yeah, so
bad.
she now she'll bring you her toy bird. But yeah, so she likes to be out there. She likes to go out there. She'll let you put the harness on. I'm not sure I could ever walk her on the leash. Like whenever you watch videos about the training, cats just sniff, and maybe dogs do too. I know less about them, but they just are so curious and sniff. It would take you a year to get around the block.
Yeah. I used to have a cat that was extremely codependent. His name was Baby. And around like 1 a.m. when I knew the streets were quiet, I was able to take him out and he would just follow me on my side. Like I kind of took a risk because, he could have bolted. I didn't have a leash or anything, but we would go for walks around the block and he would just pitter patter next to me and make
Yeah.
sure I was still there.
Aw. Yeah, see, I don't mind that. Like, so she knows she doesn't mind going out there, but I'm like, no, no, it's okay. We'll just wait. We're not quite there. It's gonna snow one more time, but we're almost there. We're almost there.
So how old are you supposed to pick up a kitten at? And what age did you pick up
Well,
Pat?
I think don't they say 8 weeks, something like that is when you can like start to detach. But I think she was there like 11. I think she was there
Okay.
11. So it was
Wow.
a little bit older. But yeah, definitely kept that outsideness in her. She just was always, and I was, I'm the kind of person, I'm not necessarily as into dogs. I like dogs, but I'm not sure owning one. Like in the city, if you're not out, you don't have a big yard. Like I just think that they want to run around.
Mhm.
So, I was already sort of knew when I get a cat, I'm definitely gonna, like I had them growing up, but in my own world, um, take them outside and do things with them. We've taken her camping. I mean, let's go.
Right? Well, cats are easier and just as fulfilling. So
Yeah.
they're great pets to have. I don't understand like most people are dog people and they have a
Mm.
bias against cats. I don't get that. Like they're both great companions.
Yeah, well, sometimes they can be like people's complaints standoffish, or sometimes people own cats you don't even know. Like you go in their house, you don't see them, they don't want to be around people. So sometimes people get those preconceived.
Yeah. I know Tammy, our landlord, she's like petrified of cats. She's warming up to them now, but
Okay,
it's interesting. I wonder what kind of life experience gave her that kind of PTSD.
right? Yeah, yeah.
One of her friends got cat scratch fever, I'm just finding out.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I
And I
see
think
that happens. Yeah,
that's if you have outdoor cats, right? That like I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. And then there's like, then there's the people who don't like black cats, and like you just get. I don't think there's a I don't think there's a color of a dog that people avoid. You know what I mean? So then
Yeah,
that also puts a cloud over cat head. So
kind of racism.
yeah. And they, I mean, they can have their moods. I'm sure dogs can too. I had a friend who had a cat, and I think it, like, she adopted it, and I think it came from an abusive situation. And you didn't know it was there until you were walking around, because out would come the paw and swipe, like it would scratch you. So you'd like walk into the middle of her living room and figure out how to gazelle jump onto her couch without being close enough for the paw to come out. Like, so, you know, and that's just a situation of where it came from. But yeah, some people just get that.
On our Facebook page after this episode, we're gonna have to post our cats, and the people who are following in our Facebook page will be like, why are they posting their cats? But hey, it might lead to some people interested in clicking into this episode.
Yes, absolutely. That's one of my things. What's some of the stuff putting the feel back in your Tuesday and this week? What's going on?
Oh, well, and in JC's world, yesterday, I'll start with something positive. Yesterday, I got invited on to this young man's podcast. His name is Keenan Sikora, and he has a podcast called Let's Took About It. He is currently on episode 5 of his show, and I got to join in as a guest. And I just found it so much fun, and I loved seeing young people. He's not that much younger than me, but he's 20 and I'm 26, and take some initiative and try to build some projects out of their own hands, you know. It's his own
Mm,
platform that he started on his own, and the fact that he even reached out to me to join his show, I just how could I ever say no? So that was a lot of fun to join his podcast. And then I guess not even on a it's not really a negative note, it's just a reality note.
mm,
Um I was telling you yesterday where I feel like we're in a limbo, a time of stagnation where we're just, we say it every week, we're on the precipice of summer, winter, I think anyone who does enjoy the winter and doing the winter activities and oh geez, let me just mute my phone here.
mhm.
And anyone who does enjoy those winter activities, we've gotten out there, we've done them. The snow's melted, so you can't do them anymore. Now it's just the lingering cold. So
Yeah,
I'm super on the precipice of just waiting to get out there with my dog. And I've tried to
yeah,
get out there and do some running, but it's just not the same. You're more surviving out there rather than enjoying it. And I'm waiting for those days of enjoyment. So other than that, it's also with that looming weather thing, I've also, week after week, you guys know me, this book project, it's
mhm,
coming to an end finally. I'm 12 days now away from my printing day. And yeah, I think this project now, if I were to count the days, I wonder if it's been close to the amount of time that I spent on the road walking across Canada. It's kind of how I'm
mhm,
measuring things now. And I'm getting close to probably like 104, maybe even 160 days now worth of book writing, editing, and everything that surrounds that project. So, um, I just think of it in the way when I walked across Canada and on day 160, when I kind of came to the end of my journey and it felt perfect and ready to be done. I'm getting to that point with the book where it's like I'm at the end, I'm so close to being finished. And when I do finish, it's gonna be so relieving. It's not been a physical journey, but it's been like a extreme mental and emotional journey, just
mm,
trying to sit down and focus hours on end and try to make the best product possible for this fundraiser. So we're almost there, but it's just feels like week after week I'm kind of living the same day over and over and over again. And yeah, like I was telling you yesterday, once this new season comes in, new vibes, new thoughts, new perspectives, and that was almost what I was saying with the feelings. We've been in the same, or at least from my end, like the same kind of day over and over and over. So it's hard to find those new perspectives and new feelings to talk about. And in those lulls, that's where I was kind of telling Wendy, when we don't really have a feeling that we're really driving our passion to try and share with the world, we kind of needed some topics to do some filler and to keep the conversation going.
Yeah.
Because this podcast, I see Wendy and I doing this for 1,000 episodes. That's always the way I think about it. How do we get this podcast to 1,000 episodes?
Yeah.
And it's about readjusting, shifting your ideas, and being creative.
Absolutely. And like open to do so, right? Because you never know what comes of different things. When we're going to pivot, we're going to pivot. Yeah, I mean the book project, sometimes when we jump into something, right? Like, or not jump in, but this is what we're going to do. Great. You get in it, you're doing it. I think there's always, when it's a big enough one, I think there's always like, okay, okay, the flows, but when you can start to see the end, right? I'm sure it gets, yeah,
I
I'm
still have a
almost
bit of
done.
that. It's that stress. Even though I see the finish line and I set a deadline, and I've actually checked off every box along the list along the way. Um, it's hard to enjoy any life right now until that's sent off. It's
Yeah,
just it's at the forefront of my mind and even my body. Like I uh just feel like it's ready to be out of my body. My body's like, finish this project and let us be free again.
yeah, and it'll coincide. I think that's great with, like, hopefully the weather being done and really a big shift. So
Yeah,
that'll be good. The timing, right? The timing, that's awesome.
perfect time and just in time for my book tour, May 1st, 2024. I'll be going to 45 towns and cities across Canada. Um, yeah, go to my social media across Canada, Jax, and I might be going to a town in a city near you. And I would love to see you come out to show some support, get a book, and raise some funds for cancer research.
Yeah, that's gonna be so awesome. Just another little journey, get something out of it, say another hello. Yeah, that's gonna be great.
And
I think it's wild how long, a year goes by really fast, right? That's, so crazy. I'm sure for you it's even more crazy. I think Saturday I was saying, because I think I found you on day 10. So I think Saturday was my Jack's anniversary. That, because day
oh
10 a year ago is Saturday. Yeah, because I think it was day 10. So, and
yeah,
so to look back on the year and, just not just Jack's related, but just wow, a year's gone by and all the stuff that's gone on. And yeah, sort of a time to reflect, because sometimes we don't, sometimes people do that at New Year's. They reflect about the year, or their birthday, but sometimes there isn't other little things that randomly through the year trigger you to be like, oh, wow, that was a year ago. So that's been kind of fun.
love it. The Jack's anniversary. Oh gosh, it just brings so much nostalgia. Like people will have Facebook posts where they might have shared something I did a year ago today, and they're sharing with me like, wow, like a year ago today I found your page, and it was
Yeah.
yeah, it's very nostalgic.
Which is fun because you've got a bit of that ahead, right? Because you're gonna, like, that's something that'll last a bit for you, because there'll be people who found you later and shared at different times as you
Yeah,
went across. So that'll be super awesome. Yeah.
that Keenan guy, he had found me on day 140, and he was still so adamant and positive of a supporter. It's no matter what day they found the journey, people just jumped right in and supported the cause. It was just, so I think that was like a once in a lifetime like experience and
Yeah.
opportunity, and just the way people rallied behind it. Like it's almost, I don't think I'm never going to be able to recreate that. And I don't think I should even try just how
Right?
organic it all was. But the book tour will be a fun little second tour where the people that really, really enjoyed it
Yeah.
get a
Yeah.
second chance to jump in. And even cooler, Wendy and I'm gonna be in Calgary at some point during all of that. And Wendy and
Mhm.
I are gonna get to do our first in-person podcast. That's gonna be such a fun episode. We'll
Yeah.
have I'm sure that episode will be more just a chill chill vibes. We're not going to try and teach anyone anything. It might even just be a personal conversation just filmed for you guys because it'll be so cool to be face to face in each other's.
Yes.
It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, that's gonna be good. And so Keenan's podcast, Let's Talk About It. I think, is it just available on Spotify? I listen to it on Spotify. Shout out for it. So everybody, go listen to it. Either catch up on the episodes, listen to Jax, whatever. It was a really fun listen. I enjoyed it. It was so I heard it on Spotify, but I'm not sure. Do you know if it's
So he's on Spotify and Apple right now. That actually just
okay?
reminded me that that could be the next thing that we do that's very minimal effort to try and put this podcast out there to more people is get it on Apple and Spotify. That doesn't take very much effort whatsoever. So yeah, we should
Yeah, because
definitely.
I think you can just sound file it right into Spotify and Apple. I don't know much about Apple. I don't have Apple, but like I think, can you just sound file that into? Yeah.
Absolutely. So we record these on Zoom, you guys. And those of you who watch the YouTube, you know it's very bare bones at the moment. I mean,
Mhm.
we have our two boxes and a little purple stripe that says our podcast name. But when you stop the recording on Zoom at the end, they give you a video file, an audio file, and some other
Mm.
file. So I can easily, when I'm editing the YouTube stuff, I
Yeah.
can take the audio file and put that on Spotify and Apple as well.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. Love it. Just find different ways. So yeah, that was a good one. So did Keenan, so I think I seen a picture of the two of you. So did he come find you in Alberta? He must have then, 140.
Yeah, so he told me he had met me in Strathmore on my way into
Yeah.
Calgary. Yeah,
Okay.
he must
Yes.
have been a brief encounter. I felt bad because I didn't remember that one too much. It must have just been a time that slipped my mind. But he came out to see me in Strathmore, and I had the big beard and the tan,
Yeah.
and yeah, I guess he followed from 140 to the end, and he really enjoyed it, and then just kept watching and supporting, and I
Yeah.
guess he started his own endeavor now, and I thought it was awesome that he thought I was what I did was cool enough to just even be invited onto this show. I still just feel
Yeah.
like a regular dude. And so when people, it's he put me on a pedestal a bit, which is nice, it's nice he
Mm.
did that and gave me some props, but yeah, anyone could have done what I did if the cause was important enough to them.
Right? Yeah. And it's neat that it's like Canadian. I don't know if he's only focusing on Canadian things, but that's, a neat little way too. I mean, the title, of course, right? It's very, very Canadian. So
Right.
that's fun that, he's sort of found. And there's so many with today's day and age, I think, in the way social media is and the way people can post and everything. There's so many amazing things going on. Everybody's doing something cool,
Yeah.
no matter how big of a broadcast it gets or very little or just what you want to post. I think it'll be great for him to be able to find, other just create Canadian gems. There's lots of them out there. Mhm.
Well, that's exactly what him and I were kind of talking about at the end there with the fall of cable TV almost because with social media now and so much power just from an iPhone, like the quality you can get just from these little things, if you have the ability to storytell and kind of map out content properly, people are producing just from their own homes
Yeah.
content and shows and ideas that are even better than stuff you can watch on cable TV.
Yeah.
So, and you can get something so dialed into your niche that why would
Yeah.
you ever go and watch TV again when you can watch like
Yeah.
I'll find myself more times watching a 2 hour episode of something on YouTube, and then in the same breath, I'll be like, I can't sit there and focus on a movie. It's like, well, maybe it's because the movie
Yeah.
is, um, it's just not our,
Mm.
at least for my generation, we've grown up with YouTube and stuff like that a bit more. So, definitely, it's cool to see that people independently can start creating shows and content, and then you have, instead of like these networks paying for it, you have all of the viewers kind of supporting you, and they get to
Yeah.
a little bit from each of everyone, keeps the show and the broadcast going. So it's super cool time to be in.
Yeah, and then, like-minded people or maybe other creators supporting each other too, which is, really great to see. And it's just about putting your own passion out there. I think one thing that I think I didn't realize as many people maybe struggle with this as I thought, but there's a lot of people I think who I was trying to think of the right word. They either like apologize or feel silly about what they're passionate about. So,
Gosh.
like for my example, I used to start a sentence with like, "Oh, I know it's probably stupid because it's just a show, but Schitt's Creek," or I know I'm too obsessed with photography. I take 500 pictures." Well, who cares? You like belittle that little thing that you love. So I think it's the other half of that is just it's super important to get out there doing the stuff that you love, and however you post it. However,
Oh,
that's the advantage of being able to nowadays in so many different ways. Be proud of what you love.
absolutely, Wendy. I mean, you said it so good there. I think the breakthrough when you can start being unapologetically yourself is
Yeah,
such a huge moment in anyone's lives.
yeah,
Um, once you can stop doing that apologizing for being who you are and just
yeah,
be who you are and accept that you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but if you are genuinely a good person with a good attitude, you will be most people's cup of tea. And then you
yeah.
don't have to apologize for being yourself. And if you are so passionate about something and unapologetically, and someone tries to make fun of you,
Mm.
you could honestly end up winning them over because they'll be like, "Oh, wait a minute, this thing I thought was stupid, he still doesn't think it's stupid. Maybe I'll actually listen and learn more about their passion."
Yes, and maybe why they're passionate about it. And yeah, so there's lots of ways to get the stuff out there. So that's why I think he'll be able to find, and then maybe as he has more people on and guests, oh, there's this other cool person doing this that's Canadian. So yeah, that's super neat that you get some opportunities to pop in. I love it. Love it.
Yeah, I just want to go back to that being ashamed of the things we enjoy.
Yeah.
Um, I remember just in high school, I'm only 26, so high school still, it's getting to be 10 years ago, but we're almost there. I just remember I was basically a lot of my personality was in the closet, not not my sexual preference, but just who I
I
was
get it.
as a person, because I
Yep.
was such a gamer and I had such niche um
Mm,
interest that I just felt like if I ever told anyone that I'd be made fun of and I wouldn't have the same friends I had, which, saying that out loud, if they weren't going to be my friends for the interests I had, they probably shouldn't have been my friends in the first place.
yep. Yeah.
But yeah, so I just remember really just I was only myself around me, and it was so
Yeah.
freeing. After high school, what I did was I deleted all social media, and worked in a personal care home. So everyone I was around was in their 30s, 40s, 50s. So once you get older, no one cares. Everyone's doing their own thing. They're caring about their bills, their
Yeah.
kids, whatever after school activities maybe their kids are doing or they're doing. So there was more room to just be myself.
Yeah.
And with all that growth, and then it comes to the part where you're talking about people being afraid to post their passions. And
Mm,
at that point, when I had been through all that growth of just not caring about who I was and just accepting it, at that point, it just gave me the courage, whether people watched or not. I just wanted to put my passion out onto the internet because it was, yeah, like if you just
yeah.
go with the mindset that you could just inspire one person or entertain one person or just that one person, and then that one person can ignite the chain to the next person
Yeah,
instead of, and then eventually you could think bigger scale. But yeah, it's just get out there, follow your passion, even post it. Don't even post it because you need a million views or a million likes. Just
yeah,
find your tribe.
yeah, because that one person that maybe found you, hopefully their group of people is their people that would have the same interest, and that's the freeing part. Um, I think you're correct when you say that it was freeing to be just you when you were by yourself. But one thing that came into my head when you said it was maybe a little lonely too.
Oh
That
gosh, for sure.
yeah, because I know that maybe I've had those feels a little bit too in the time of okay, well, don't talk about that so much. Meh, the amount of stuff. If you really sit there and think about the people in your lives, you've probably listened to them talk lots about stuff and maybe the same stuff that isn't even their passion. Maybe they just constantly complain about work or their relationship or whatever. So yeah, guilt free, man. Just let her fly.
Let her fly.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, yeah. So that's, and that's an important thing, and especially if you're encouraged, and other people show the interest as well. So surrounding yourself with really good people is, I think, important. That's another one of my feels for the week. So on the weekend, it was my older niece's birthday, and so just always love, you know, you get to go and do that and hang out with people. So it's like my best friend's um daughters, pretty much family. So when you go over there and her brothers are there with their families, it's just still feeling like family too. I don't ever feel like, oh, but I mean, I think we've known each other like 30 years. So,
That
you kind of, so that was nice on the weekend. That was another thing for the week was, I sort of got to go and do that and hang out. And I always
well,
love,
family transcends blood, and that's a fact.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
So that was another good thing.
I don't know about you, Wendy. You might have a different opinion on that about this, but I know you have siblings as well.
Yep.
Um, so something I found growing up with siblings is, like I was saying, how let's say around my friends, I was never fully myself. And then at
Mm,
home, I would spend, every single day. I mean, I had a group of friends I would play video games with, but a lot of the
yep.
times I would spend so much time alone. I'm almost like an introverted extrovert where when I'm
Yeah.
out in the moment, I'm there, I'm enjoying it, but I've
Mm,
so much alone time and recharge time that
yeah.
I really do enjoy my own presence. Like I love hanging out with myself because I
Yep.
find it's so hard to find people that are like so interested in the same things I am,
Yep.
where I'd rather just do those things by myself if I don't have anyone to do them with. But then in the same breath, I had my
Yeah.
brother who was one room over. So anytime I would get lonely, I had a brother. So I have loved having siblings for that
Yeah.
fact that like a lot of my friends at school would always spend time with each other after school. And I always felt like I never needed to do that because my friends after school is my brother. And so it was nice that I could do that all in the same place at my under my own roof at home.
Yeah.
Did you ever find that where if you ever got lonely in your house, you just had your siblings always around, or were you someone who was out there with their friends all the time at other people's houses and out there causing a ruckus?
Well, so I have one sibling. I have one older sister. She's 5 years older than me. So already I think a big age difference. And as I've gotten older, I've found that even talking to other people, when there's a big age difference, that definitely can put a chunk in there. Depends on who's older, who's younger, that kind of
Mm,
deal. But um I think a combination of both. I was out with friends and doing stuff quite a bit. I had a few good close friends. I grew up in Airdrie, which at the time was a smaller town. And it wasn't like the best, like school years in Airdrie were not, they were not fun. They were not fun at all. So you had those few close friends that you'd hang out with and do stuff with. And then, we were always, I think, trying to be busy as a family too, like camping and doing stuff. My dad was big on, if it was wintertime, he was the one organizing the community snowball fight. And in the
Oh,
summer, the community water fight. So a combination of both. But I think at that time growing up, I might have been a little bit more the like, I want to hang out with my sister all the time and she's 5 years older and trying to. So yeah, we definitely had times for sure of being close and doing stuff, but an age gap sometimes would. And as we got older, we've definitely come into it
yeah.
way better as you get older, and we acknowledge that we're very close now, and still it's just it sort of evolved and changed as we got older. But yeah, it was nice, having her there, and everything was fantastic. But I probably was more of a, I want to play, let's do something, and she's like, I want to have my friends over, go out and do this, and I'm like,
Right.
bug, but we definitely had time of being
So you're the
together.
younger sibling, so that's a whole different, it's a whole different ballpark than where I'm one of four, and I was second oldest. So
Okay.
yeah, there was always someone around to talk to, and it was
Mhm.
kind of funny. Me and my brother, there would be times where it was almost like our own podcast, where
Yeah.
we would catch each other in the base because we both had a room in the basement, and him and I are very much alike, where we're always looking for new information, always trying to learn something new, always just gathering information about who knows what, even if it doesn't relate to anything. We just love learning and gathering new information. And so him and I would always, once a week, it ended up being on Wednesdays, we'd cross paths in the basement. And we were very like, we would have very debating, respectful conversations. So like, Wednesdays it was bad because we'd catch each other in the hallway, and then 4 hours later, I mean, the conversation just would not even stop. Like we could go for 8, but
Yeah.
because I would say something, he'd be like, and then he's such a good listener too, where he would listen to what I had to say and then be like, well, why do you think this, of this and that? So we would actually have such a good back and forth, and I'd be like, okay, well, what do you think about this and that, and how does that play into this? And 4 hours would go by and we had work to do and stuff to do. And we're like, okay, we could be here all day. Then we just separate. But then, around the house, we both do our own thing. And then the next week it'd be like, oh gosh, here it comes again. I'll be like, so what do you think about this? So that's how it would always start. I'd be like, what do you think about this? So maybe
Yeah.
something even controversial or whatever. And then he'd be like, oh, I think this and this and this. And I'll be like, wait, so do you really actually think that? Because I really think it's this. And he was like, what? Like, how do you think? And yeah, it was like 4 hours once a week and just
Yeah.
about everything and anything and everything. So it was awesome to have that. And that's kind of where, I don't know, I always wanted to start a podcast even way back then, even with
Mm.
him. I'm like, we could have such good conversations. And so I'm
Yeah.
so happy now it's come full circle and now we have a podcast. And you're just telling me, you're like, I've always wanted to have a podcast too. And so
Mm.
that's where that thing where I was saying I loved hanging out alone because it's so hard to find the people that want to do what you want to do. And so you can do it together. And that's
Yeah.
where we fall in so much a line where it's like we care so much about the same stuff. And then we both wanted to do a
Mhm.
podcast. So it was like the
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah. And if you can find those people, I mean, usually they're in our world. If they're friends that are, around us, friendship's super important. You got to hang on to those people, and they show up in different parts of our lives for different reasons. And that's what's sort of fun about that. A little, that's awesome. I love that little impromptu podcasts every Wednesday in live from Jax's basement.
Honestly, though, I feel like some of those conversations could have been a good listen, but
Yeah. Oh,
hey,
yeah.
sometimes it's good things just for yourselves. But I want to say now, just because it's kind of interesting, if you just came to judgment in my mind. So people would probably never expect for there to be a podcast between you and I. Like, I don't even know what our age gap is or what, but we've become such good friends and it just feels so normal. I don't see any age or difference. I just see you as my friend and it's just so normal and natural. But we're certainly not the most like textbook friends, it's kind of a random
Right.
collaboration and I just think it's so awesome, like no
Mm,
judgment from both ends. We just kind of we're just open and accepting people and I
yeah.
think just if you look at the two people on the screen, um maybe if
Mm,
any of you guys listening have any relationships in your life that seem a little weird, well, look at Wendy and I. We're such good friends and who would have ever expected that?
mm. Yeah, well, I am 45. I think, hang on. So, yes, turning, when you get to an age where you just, yeah, I don't know. Let me do the math. I will be 46 this year. So 20-year age difference.
Wow. It doesn't
Right.
feel like that though. Well, you get to a point in life though where you're all tossed into the same boat.
Yes. Yeah.
And soon with me becoming a parent, I feel like that is the final like barrier to entry where you're gonna be, you're all on the same playing field. We're all trying to raise our families the best we
Yep.
can, keep life going, plan some activities to keep life spicy and live the
Yep.
best, happiest lives we can.
That's right. Like just, and then it just sort of becomes, you don't see as much, right? So maybe what you're saying is you don't see the age, or maybe you don't, if there is some differences in opinions or thoughts, they're not like accented. If there's someone you don't vibe with it very much, if there is a difference of opinion or thought or whatever, sometimes it stands out more because you already don't vibe as much. But
Mhm.
with people that are in your circle, that it's yeah, it really doesn't, just doesn't stand out, which is fantastic. It's, you can have several different types of friends throughout your life for whatever reason. People, I have always said, I've had a friend recently come back into my life, and um, I've always said, if people disappear and come back into your life, it's for a reason. And I've always said that. And when this person contacted me, they said that to me. They said, "You always used to say," and it's just like, boom, like that's just it. It doesn't matter what else is to come or what reasons. I still believe that, like to my core, people will come and go. It took me a while to get the concept of like, in general, of like, well, if you're so close, why would somebody go? Like, why, what is the point of coming and going then? Like, why can't it just be? But that's just the universe doing its thing for whatever reason. And I've had lots of people in my life sort of come and go, and some don't come back. But yeah, it's always for a reason. So you gotta keep an eye out for those connections, right?
Right. The way like it kind of brought me to the thought where life is like a long, strange trip. And I see us all like our souls on a spiritual plane, and we're all doing our lives. And sometimes, like, two souls kind of meet up at the same spot on that plane, and they might ride together for a while, but then eventually they break off and keep riding into the plane. And then maybe
Yes.
one day, like, your paths will cross again, and that's fate. And then they hit in that, spiritual realm. But super interesting just how if you think of the world like on a like just like a um trippy like energy field kind of level, it's so fascinating, just how everything works. I don't know if you've ever listened to the Grateful Dead. You heard
Yes.
the band? I feel like all of their songs kind of they give you that trippy, well, because they're on acid and mushrooms and everything in between while they write these songs. But
Yeah.
there's almost like I'm not advocating for any of it. Everyone should make their own choices and decisions. But I mean,
Right.
the reason people do psychedelic drugs is because it taps you into that plane and that
Mm,
field of the unknown. But I mean,
yeah,
everyone who's done them has these very, they have the same opinion that like there is these energy fields and there is so much more
mhm,
going on outside of just our physical reality. Super fascinating. And one of their songs, they go, "What a long, strange trip it's been." And it's just like they're just talking about lives, and it's a long, strange trip. And that's like, what the heck even is life and us and
yeah.
these human bodies we're living in, talking over this computer? It's just,
And just when you think you've got things figured out, whoop, something comes in and you're going taking a different fork on that trip than you on the road than you thought you were. Yeah. So it's yeah, it's a good thing because sometimes when things come and go, whether it's people or phases, it can be a good thing too, because even if there's a negative to it or a lesson to be learned in that somewhere, I definitely know I've had my own um level of experience with this person coming back into my world of having to face a little bit of a mirror and a little bit of the narrative that you sort of tell yourself. But we were just so close back then. It's still just there, and so
mhm,
communication is there, and we just
pick
be
up
able to
right
do
where you
your
left off.
yeah,
So
which has been fun.
do you have any friends that are like older than you? What's the general range of your friends? Do you know?
Yeah. Well, I've got some friends that are older than me for sure. Not by a lot, I guess. Maybe just like 1 or 2 years. And then my one bestie there, her husband is the same age as Steve. So Steve's 5.5 years older than me.
Okay.
Um, so Steve and her husband are probably my oldest
Oh,
of the friends.
interesting.
I have some younger too, but yeah, they sort of like stay in the range a couple years uh, on either side.
Am I your youngest friend?
I guess now you are my youngest friend. Yeah.
Oh, it's just so interesting. Just who ends up being your friends. I found when I was working at the care home, like I was saying, it brought me into this world with all these older people, and I almost enjoyed hanging out with them more than people my age. Just, I don't know what it was. And then I kind of think now, so one day I'm gonna be older. I wonder, because I think I would have been like, all these 45, 50-year-olds are hanging out, and then they have a 20-year-old in the group. Just, I
Yeah.
always thought to myself, I wonder if one day I'll be that age and I'll get to spend some time with someone younger. We might be looking for older people to kind of maybe have a mentor, or just someone who doesn't
Yeah.
want to someone who just doesn't find the joy in making all those mistakes early on and partying and stuff like that. And they just want to connect with real life. And I always wonder if I'll ever be that guy to someone.
Well, I'm sure you will be for as long as there's old souls out there or people in search of course you will be. It's just whether it's a family member, stranger that you start talking to on a park bench, or perhaps somebody that works in the care home if you are in one of those one day. Like you just sort of never, yeah, you
No,
just
good
never
point.
know.
My old manager, Mike, shout out Mike. He was such a mentor to me, and I'll never forget
Mhm.
him. So, life is long, and who knows where I'll ever end up one day. But yeah, maybe I'll have my chance at I just know the such positive impact so many people have had on me, and I like appreciate them so much to the very core of my living. So I just hope one day I can get that chance to give back.
Yes, exactly. And speaking it, right? Like I think we touched that last time when I asked you, with that one friend that you had that was like when you were in a group conversation and they were like, I don't really want to participate in this gossip. And that was a switch moment for you. And I asked, did you ever tell them that? Make sure that, those people that, you really appreciate know, even just why, it's real easy to say, oh, you know, we're great friends and I really love hanging out with you, but even just little whys, spit out the little whys, because I'm sure we can all pick different things in our friends that we love them for. Um,
Absolutely.
so
I
yeah, little
heard,
melting pot of
right? I heard a good quote where, I think it was the Three Musketeers.
Mm,
There's like a book from the Three Musketeers back in the day, and they all would tell each other, "I love you with all my heart," and they're all men.
mm,
But nowadays, I think society has kind of turned that to be a weird thing where if you're telling your
oh,
boys you love them with all your heart, you're getting looked at funny. But I try to bring that back. I tell all of my guy friends that I love you with all my heart because it's the
yeah,
truth. And I'm a big believer. Like I'll hug my male friends because I also think like you never know when's the last time you'll get to give them a hug. And so I always try to hug people and leave them with good words.
yeah,
Just never know.
yeah, and that's one thing, you know, I found personally for me, but I think just judging on what some other people have said and watching what was going on, I'm sure other people agree that really was a one of the beautiful parts of your journey, the model of that type of a friendship, I think, between you and Rob. And even the discussion that happened one day, I thought it was such an important discussion. I remember where I was, which parking lot I was in, and watching you on the thing, and I'm like, okay, I have to watch this for a few minutes before I start driving and listening. Somebody had said something in the comments or whatever, and it launched you guys into a discussion of this and friendships and breaking down, you know, that judgment of two guys being friends. I thought, like, this is such, that was one of those moments on your journey that I was like, um, this isn't just about walking across Canada. This is also about things that happen along the way, conversations that come up, people that you meet. Like, yeah, I'm sure you had no idea that all those types of things would happen. So I remember that being a pivotal moment, but I 100% agree. I think a connection is a connection, whether whoever your friends are. I think two guys, nobody looks at it when two girls are best friends. So, like, no, it doesn't matter. Two human beings having this life experience that appreciate each other's company. I just love watching close friendships, no matter where they are. Yeah.
Yeah, life is so way too short to be embarrassed about anything, truthfully.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's so funny when you see like high school kids get embarrassed when their parent says, "I love you." And, you don't, it's embarrassed to have your parents love you at that age. But you would just hope that I think a lot of kids do come around eventually when they leave. That's the thing. It's like the pivotal moment when you leave these groups of people, like high school, even university, when you get stuck with the same group and you leave and then you're by yourself and it's time for you to figure out things for yourself. You start to like think about those moments and then you get older and you love your parents and you're like, why was I ever embarrassed that my parents said I loved you when they were dropping you off? And why would I never say it back because I thought my friends would make fun of me? It's almost like you wish you had everything you knew now back then and just
Yes.
done everything so much more differently. But I guess that's the thing about life. You learn that you have to learn and then apply what you learned going forward. You can't take any of those lessons and go back.
No, no, you can't. And you sort of know, like, and as a parent, because I've experienced that with my parents, I sort of know that's what's happening just in that example. But yeah, it's just one of those things. And it's also, I think, not only are you, because you're away from maybe the group of friends and life is different out of school. But like the brain is still going, the brain's still developing. I think now research shows that, I don't remember. Is it that research used to think that our brains sort of grow until they're 18? But I think now they're finding it into like 25. And so you're still processing, you're still experiencing, you're coming out of high school and, in those early 20s when you're trying to figure out your way and stuff, it's still going up there. And so, yeah, you start to connect some dots and be like,
That
you know,
frontal cortex.
yeah. I mean, there is some pretty amusing videos of parents who it just came to mind when you said it, like over the top it dropping off because they know.
Hmm.
And I will admit, me and Steve watched those going, geez, that'd be fun.
Right? No, I'm gonna be that blowhorn dad. I love you, Easton. And the thing is he's gonna be embarrassed in his head, but none of the students are really, judging them. It's all in our own heads.
That is awesome. We're gonna expect a video of that one day somewhere down the road.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So we kind of veered off, well, not in a bad way, but we veered off from how we normally do things. We typically pull what's called a oracle card. Is that right, Wendy?
Yep, or yep, absolutely.
So our
So
oracle card gives us our intention for the day or for the week,
yeah.
and Wendy will read it off, and we tend to discuss what the meaning of it might be and how to find the deeper thoughts that come from it.
Yeah, how to carry it through our day or our week. Sometimes they require a little bit more thinking than others.
I'm excited to
Sometimes
see what we get today.
oh, there we go. Okay, that one took a minute to sort of come out there. Sometimes they do. Oh, wow. Okay. Whom do you deeply love? At first, I thought it said what. That's why I went, oh, wow. But we could probably take it on both planes because we did talk about, not being ashamed of what you love. So, whom do you deeply love? Find bliss in your ability to feel this love.
I love it.
And then, yeah, the quote at the top, what a strange thing to be alive beneath cherry blossoms.
Absolutely. That one's kind of clear cut, you know?
Yep.
Um, I feel like a lot of humanity, their main core value is their family. Like, that's the one thing where
Mm,
we all know you don't get back. It's a once in a lifetime. It's the most precious thing on earth. And
yep.
it's a comfort at the end of the day. So I think most of us do, yeah, I mean, that's where we go when we're uncomfortable. We go to our loved ones to comfort us, and
Yep.
hopefully everyone listening does have a shoulder to lean on. And if
Mhm.
that's not the case and they found it with us, we're here for you too, you guys.
Yeah, and I mean, it is an opportunity to really look at that. So yes, our family, our core family, but even just to touch base on something you said earlier of, there was a period in your life in school where you couldn't fully be yourself around other people. Well, those aren't necessarily people that you deeply love. So it's an opportunity sometimes to do that check-in of like, how is my circle? How is the health of my circle? Am I keeping the people in my circle that, are still for my best outcome, my highest good? Um, and then just also an opportunity to reconnect and see, whom do you deeply love and why? There's lots of different reasons to deeply love somebody, whether it's something they brought to your life or what they give to you every day. So yeah, and then finding bliss in your ability to feel that love, because like you said, there may be some people out there that don't have as much of that deep love in their everyday surroundings. So when you've got it, acknowledge it, really feel that, appreciate it, see where you can pass that love someone's giving to you on to someone else and just keep that circle going.
Oh gosh, you said that so well. If you're someone that you feel like you've kind of built yourself up and you're full of love to give and
Mhm.
positivity, yeah, go start spreading it and
Yeah,
don't need any of it in return. Just start putting it out into the world because
yeah,
that's kind of the pinnacle of all this.
yes. Yeah, it is. And sometimes people will find, when they really look at it, sometimes people will be like, I mean, I've had some people give that feedback when they sit there and think about stuff from a read, and they'll be like, I have more acquaintances than I thought,
Yeah,
they thought relationships were. But, if you can be unapologetic about who you are and your true self, around people, then that's who they are. And they're just, there may be even family that you can't be around as much, or friends you can't be around as much because for whatever reasons, but there may still be a reason that you deeply love them. And even that is something to think about, acknowledge, write down, whatever, and appreciate, because
So
it's for a reason.
I'm gonna have a question for you, and I don't know if it's gonna spark us into a 40-minute conversation here. But what do we do if there's just like someone who's narcissistic or just very much a taker? Um, because it
Mhm.
feels so good to give love to other givers and to people who are grateful for it.
Right.
But how do you give love to someone who's like kind of self-sabotaging, kind of unappreciative, not very reciprocating? It's kind of all about them. Like, but maybe that person is someone that's hard to let go of, if that makes sense. It's someone that
Yeah.
it's almost like if you give them your love and your time and your energy, it's just a lost cause because it's never going to be reciprocated and they're just going to take it all for granted. But we all have those people in our lives, I feel like.
Yeah, so for you sort of answered my first kind of like thought or question back is, uh, well, is this someone that you still need to hold? Like, is this somebody that still, we can't just pitch everybody in our lives. Some connections we can't, whatever reason. Um, so first question is this somebody? So if it's somebody that you don't want to disconnect with, my opinion, um, because you can't control them, you can control you. Um, it just might be changing the expectation of that relationship. So if you know they're narcissistic and they're just takers and they're not going to give back, if you have something major happen and you need to talk to someone about it, you just know you're not going to go to that person. And if
Hmm.
you're okay with adjusting, and again, that's just my opinion, if you're okay with adjusting how you are with that person so that you can keep them, because you realize they have these behaviors, triggers, etc., but you still want to have them in your life, it's unfair to you and them to keep them there with the expectation that they won't be like that with you, or they'll change, or if I mention it and say something, maybe it'll, nope, if you choose to keep them there, you need to change your you'll just know that you don't go to them if you're really needing something, because they're just takers.
Yeah.
If you can't cut that cord, I'm not saying, let's find ways to keep toxic people around. If you absolutely, if it's a situation where you don't want to cut that cord, then yeah, look look inward to what you need to sort of do. And if it's too painful to not have them in your life in the way you need them to, maybe it's just re-examining whether you can cut that cord.
Yeah, I'll kind of give a personal example here and what kind of made me think of it and the way I dealt with it, but I know not everyone will deal with it the same way as I do, and that's kind of why I was looking for your opinion and your advice. So, um, I don't even think anyone from my biological side of the family listen to this, and if they do, I'm not really embarrassed or ashamed of saying this story, but my biological father was in the military and he went overseas and seen some stuff that really messed him up.
Yeah,
So he, came back onto home territory here
yeah,
and just began substance abusing. So, hard drugs, drinking, everything under the sun. And now when I speak with him, everyone else, every one of my other siblings have fully cut him off, and I'm the
yeah,
only one who's kind of left that door semi-open. I mean, if he ever texts me, I'll send the little thing back because at the end of the day, I just part of me thinks like I don't want I want to leave a door open in case anything really does happen where he's so like none of my kids will even answer me anymore. I'm over this life. I don't want to have that on my conscience, so I always just leave a door semi open. But he's just someone where now when like he came out to see me in Thunder Bay when I was going across Canada, kind of unpromptu. I hadn't seen him in years, just kind of showed up. And he was like a shell of a human being. He was just, you could tell all the substance abuse has gotten to his brain, and he's just, I don't even see, I don't recognize him as a personality wise or physicality wise. He looks and sounds, and it's just like a whole different human being. And he's someone like that is very like, at that point you're just there. If I were to give him so much of my energy, I don't feel like we'd be getting anywhere with him. And so I've kind of, everyone in my family just kind of put him on the wayside because he was just toxic and never ever contributing anything positive to our lives. So the way we all dealt with it was, take him out of your life. But I think a lot of people who might be in the same situation, whether that's, a parent, a loved one, a friend, or a family member, you can it's like that they might leave the door open too, to where they might have the same thought I do, like, oh, I really just don't want them, but their door might be a lot more open than mine. So mine
Correct.
is very much a crack open, where I'm just, maybe if he's ever reaching out because he needs that one reply in that moment, um then I'm there for that. But other than that, that's all he gets from me, and he gets nothing else from the rest of our family. But what would you think to the people who kind of give it too much energy, maybe, and trying to fix these people? Or like, what do you think of everything I just told you?
Well, everybody's going to be different, and you have a specific example that you've said. So, I was jotting a couple of things, and then you answered some of them. So the first thing is, when it comes to leaving, in my opinion, that door open, is, well, why are you leaving it open? First off, so like, why? And you have sort of said why you're leaving that open, and not sort of wanting that on your conscience. And if, in your example, if you're aware that that's the only reason he reaches out, um, and you're okay with that, just sort of being that little anchor once in a while. But if he's reaching out and trying to like take something or suck more energy than you're willing to provide, then yeah, that's maybe when you take a different look at that. Like, if there is something specific he's wanting from you. If it's just, a reach out once in a while and you're just that little home base once in a while, if your expectations are okay with that, um, then that's why you've left the door just a crack, and that's important. Your expectations, that metaphor of the door, I think, is the same thing. How wide does somebody leave the door open?
Mm-hmm.
So on other examples for other people, without knowing what everyone's specific examples are, I think if you've got someone toxic in your life that you don't want to cut the tie from fully, why? Ask yourself why, first of all. And you may have to do a couple layers of that. I learned about an exercise. There's a guest I'd like to bring on, and I learned the exercise from her. It'd be really cool to chat with her. But there is this exercise about 7 levels deep, and you ask yourself why 7 times, and you'll unbury something by the 4th one and not want to continue. But ask yourself why you're keeping that door open, and then maybe ask why a couple more times without overthinking it. And then it's going to go one side or the other. You may be like, oh, well, maybe that isn't as important as I think, or is that really the reason? And there's something to work through and figure out, and then you can cut them off, or it leads to a conversation with them. But yeah, definitely don't give more of your energy than you're willing to, or that you have. So if you're choosing to keep that person around for whatever reason, on whatever level, uh, again, control your expectations of it and the amount of energy that you're willing to put into it. But if you do find that even the little contact that you get, like the little text he'll send once in a while, if for some reason you're finding that it is pulling more energy than you think, it might just be looking at why maybe there is something a little bit further down
Hmm.
that is sitting there. But I mean, I know it's easier said than done to just cut people
Oh,
out of our lives, but
absolutely.
don't
That's
give that energy away as best we can.
I think that was just very, very well said. I know there's very empaths and givers out there that will
Yes,
get trapped and sucked into a situation like that.
yeah,
And yeah, fortunately for us, I mean, you either learn and grow from your trauma or it impacts you in a way where you keep the cycle going. And I'm fortunate, and my siblings were all fortunate that we had our amazing stepfather, and we dealt with that from an early age and just
yeah.
found, it just was our life, and we never really thought much different of it.
Mm,
Um, but it's just, yeah, as I get older, um, it's just so fascinating. And it's just, I don't think, maybe it's more common than not, but for your own parent that
yeah.
conceived you to become a person like that, it's
Mm,
it's very unique. I don't know if it's unique, maybe it is, but it's just weird to
mm,
be a kid and then to see, like, almost he needs like a caretaker at this point, and you're the kid when he should be your caretaker. It's just interesting to see, and I think that maybe matures you earlier on and makes you,
yes.
I'm not sure what it does, but I guess the reason I brought that one up was we were talking about love and relationships and stuff like that, and it just that came to my mind. And I know there's just a lot of empaths and givers out there that wouldn't be able to do what we all did, and just because in their mind they might see what we did as so cruel. Like, they need help, how can you just cut that person off and let them go, substance
Mm.
abuse into their own great early grave. But yeah, that's why it's an interesting point of conversation. I just wanted to see what kind of thoughts came from all of it.
Well, and it's um I really guess it depends on what the level of what they're needing from you is, and the relationship you have with the person to begin with, because there is a as harsh it is as it is, there can be something to be said for the discussion of, for lack of thinking of better way to put it. Okay, so you do realize the other siblings have cut you off and I'm still standing here, right? So can we adjust what's happening here, or would you like me to also be over there with my siblings?
Hmm.
Again, nicer ways to put things. But there can be something said for that, that a discussion and sort of honesty about it. But I guess it depends on the relationship level with the person, the comfort level. But yeah, the feelings and the empathic people, and how could we just cut them off? It's what level you're willing to put into it, I guess. If it's somebody who's, needing some help, do they acknowledge it? Can you suggest it? Would they be willing to try? There's so many levels, right? There's so many levels. But being who I am at the end of the day, at the end of the day, you have to keep yourself happy and healthy and keep your circle, you know,
Positive.
yeah. So if it's literally just a once in a while, just a quick blah blah blah, and you're fine with that, just to give like a human response back, and they're okay, great. But if it is, impacting and sucking some more energy,
Like,
that's
yeah, there's been times where he's texted me asking me for $50, and it's like, what do you need $50 for at 2 in the morning? Or like times where, and then
mm,
the other times where he'll be like, oh, can you pass this message on to Zoe or Wyatt? And then I'll never even answer those because they've set their boundaries and I'm gonna respect
yep,
their boundaries. And,
yep,
if you shouldn't be going through me to try and get to them. But basically, I
yeah,
just he doesn't like I don't even want him to meet my grandchild or his grandchild. I just leave everything basically. as that anchor, that lifeline where, gosh, there was one night he called me super late, and I think I was with Rob on the road, and it was just such an awkward phone call, and it definitely sounded pretty messed up, and he was just like, just wanted to hear your voice, and I was like, oh, okay, and it kind of went
Mm,
quiet, and then it's like, okay, have a good night, and then we hung up. But so like,
mm,
I don't know what he would have done if he didn't hear my voice that night, and that's why I personally just leave that door open, just because the human, like the part of me, I would do that for anybody, not just my own flesh and
right.
blood. But very tricky and interesting situations for people to navigate. And I just wanted to be a little more open and vulnerable about that. Like at the end of the day, if I share that and my own reality and my own journey, my own story, and that upsets maybe my own family, um,
Mm,
well, the thing I would say to that was, well, then maybe they shouldn't have behaved in that way, because then
yeah,
like it's not like I'm not going to live a lie and live a secret for my entire life. So, I just thought I would share so people know that, we
mm,
all have very, very tough life situations to navigate. And the way I've navigated it is I've set up boundaries so high to the point where, yeah, you can get a text, but that's as much of my energy as you're getting. But I know some people might not be to the point yet where they can just leave it so cut and dry, because maybe they are afraid of the repercussions that that person might do or whatnot. But just felt like being a little more vulnerable today on kind of how we segued into this topic.
yeah, and so yeah, if you're not quite ready to fully cut that tie, just sort of ma the only thing I would say, and again, that's coming from me, is just examine what boundary you're comfortable with, and remember that it can change. Like, just because you decide, okay, this is what I can do now, doesn't mean that later, if you're feeling a bit stronger or the dynamics
Yeah.
between the two people change, that you can't like change it or adjust or pivot. Yeah, we can all always do that. But yeah, that can be hard because it's natural to think ahead and, well, what if I'm not? Like, we all have, some people around, or we're a support person for somebody, and you're like, well, what happens if I'm not that support person anymore? Well, then what? Um, yeah. Yeah, and that can be a tough one. And whether it's family or friend, if it's a friend, sometimes I'll try and remind people, they did exist before you, and even your dad existed before you, but life happened, blah blah blah. Everybody, sort of has had their own lives already, and so if that's their personality and they need somebody, around, they might find someone else if you're not there. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, a family member, I get that's
Because
a horror. If you don't mind me asking, have you communicated that, and you don't have to answer, have you communicated um that you have set those boundaries? Like, in that,
yeah, like I'm pretty straight up with him now. I like,
okay,
no,
good.
like I almost think like there's consequences for your actions, and I'm a
Hmm.
very diplomatic person, so no,
Yeah,
I speak my mind and explain to them why everything that's going on to them is happening to them, and they can
okay, yeah,
agree or disagree, but that's the reality they're now living in. And maybe if they, listened and and actually took people's advice, then maybe things would change for them. But it is what it is.
yes, yeah, absolutely. And the fact that you've communicated that, and if anybody communicates that, if they've got somebody like that in their world, it does sort of help, because then the person realizes that you realize what's going on, and if they still choose to be around, you know that at least that helps, putting it out there that you realize that that aspect is going on. Yeah.
Because you were just saying, like, we might be someone's support people. And I feel like I think a lot of the listeners that have found our podcast, I feel like a lot of us are people's support people. But then
Mm,
we all sometimes we might think to ourselves, well, when do we ever get a support person? And what I've chalked it kind of up to is in this world, some of us are kind of tasked with the job of carrying a lot of these burdens and just being the very strong one where the line ends, where we can
Mm,
carry some of this weight for other people, and there's eventually the cycle needs to end. You can't just keep trauma dumping down the line.
correct.
And I just think some of us, where it might feel unfair because, like, well, why do all these people get all this special love and attention because they're always so, like needing extra support and this and that. And like, when do I ever get that extra support? And I
Yeah.
just kind of chalked it up to like, some of us aren't, some of us are supposed to be the strong ones that no matter
Mm,
what, like, be proud of yourself that you're the strong one and just like I just kind of like chalked it up to like
yeah.
I need to just be the rock for everyone, and obviously sometimes it gets hard to carry, but
Hmm.
I think it's a very noble place to be, and to just do it with pride and
Yeah.
try to not let that weight turn it into a negative thing, and just be proud of yourself if that's the role you've ended up being in, and try to shape that into like, I was given this purpose and opportunity to be the rock and the boulder for a lot of people out there who are lost and who need that
Yeah.
strength and the rocks occasionally in their life.
And you may find, and again, like I always say, it's totally fine if that changes, because you may find as you get older and become a parent, like once, once it, it's easy to talk about becoming a parent when baby's not here yet, but the literal second, um, when there's that big of a being to focus on, it does sort of change a lot. And so you may sometimes it makes it easier to, I mean, it took me a lot longer to do, but through some other work I was able to find my voice a little bit. But I had no problem saying something if someone's messing with Spencer, like you.
Hmm.
Now, would I do that for myself? Probably not. So,
Right.
when there is that being there, you might start to find a difference, and where you put your energy and why might slightly change and shift too.
Right. What a very complex and interesting world we live in. But if
Yeah.
without further ado, Wendy, did you have anything else on your mind or closing ideas and thoughts?
No, I think that's it. We'll put a picture up of the card this time and our kitties,
Yes,
if
our
we
kitties.
remember. Um, yeah, we're just is next week? No, next week is not Easter. I don't know what day is it. You guys, this is where we're at.
Yeah.
What day? The March has gone by so insanely fast. But yeah, I think, well, no, it's the 19th. So it's one. So next, I think it's next weekend is like the Easter weekend. So hopefully everybody has a good little Easter weekend coming up. And if it does get nice out, go outside, everybody, while you can. Yeah, just think about your deep loves this week. Just, yeah, spend some time thinking about that and evaluating your little circle.
Yeah, I feel like this was a very interesting and thought-provoking episode. So if any of you have made it this far, we
Yeah,
do very much appreciate when you guys leave comments. We read them all, and it just helps us understand how we're going with the podcast and how things are moving along. So if you did make it
yeah.
this far, please leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you. But otherwise, that's it from Jax and Wendy here on Putting the Feel Back in Tuesday.
Yes, episode 9, we did it. Double digits
Uh, uh,
next week.
let's go. One last closing thought. They say like less than 1% of podcasts make it to their 20th episode. So
Really?
yes, yeah. So if we can make it to episode 20, we're already in the top 1% of podcasts, Wendy.
Oh, perfect. So next week's halfway, and the double digits has always been a thing. Whether it's going up or down, just quick little, my last little side note. when I turned from 9 to 10, I remember the big speech my sister gave me about the responsibility and how things change. You're double digits now. It was a year we were on the Cape. I remember the bedroom we were in that we stayed in. I remember the speech, like it was a big thing. And then if you're counting down to something that's exciting, once you go from double to single digits. So we're about to cross from the
We
the
did it.
single to the double. Yay!
Did it, and it's even more, I'm even more proud of us because we could have with last week, I can't remember what happened, but I think we filmed on a Wednesday.
Yes.
Can't remember why, but we could have very much started to let things slip there.
Yeah.
But I'm very proud of us that we
Yeah.
stayed true and we kept going. And I think this was a fantastic episode. I really liked the flow of this one. We didn't have too much pre-planned stuff, but I feel like
Right.
the conversation we facilitated kept very true to what brought us together to make this podcast, but it
Yeah.
was more just personal experience and just general thoughts. And I really enjoyed filming this one.
Yeah, I think so. I agree. I think we did good. And anything we end up talking about, can lead to whether our own experiences or not, which always has some sort of, feel with it. We are all products of our experiences, right? So here we are.
That's just it. And oh gosh, I almost want to write that down, products of our experience, because that could lead into so much for next episode. Because, like, let's just say for alcoholics, you can either never pick up a drink because you don't want to follow that trend of your parent, and then you keep passing that down, or you're the one to break the cycle. That's just where my initial thought went to. Well, that'll spring us into a whole other thing. Let's wrap up here so that
Okay. We got it.
close off clean. And
Yeah.
thank you everyone who listened. We love you guys. We appreciate you guys, and we hope that you continue to enjoy listening. And we'll be back next week with episode 10.
Absolutely. We appreciate all of you guys. Lots of love. We'll see you next week for the 10th.
Next week.
Yes. See ya.